Derita, derita, derita. Stop. Okay. Hop. No le move. Asparagus.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. So in the video today, I want to talk about a mistake I made during my pediatrics rotation. So it's something that I learned from, and I know when I came home I was in shock because I couldn't believe I made a mistake, and I hope to never make a mistake like that ever in the future. But during my pediatrics rotation, after the first 2 weeks, my doctor felt very comfortable with me, and he was sending me to see almost every single patient, see them, write a differential diagnosis, a treatment plan, etc. And so that included some patients I would run labs on, so I would do a CBC, I would interpret the CBC, look at their neutrophils, their blood, etc. So he was very comfortable with me doing that. I also even read some x-rays, so it was as if I was acting as a provider, as if I had already graduated as a PA. So it was a great experience. I loved it, but I also learned that sometimes, usually, my schedules were usually from 9 to 9:30 till around 5 or 6 p.m. My doctor had the clinic open till 7, but he would let me leave sometimes between 5 and 6 p.m. And usually by the end of the day I was exhausted, especially if we saw so many patients. And that specific patient, it was the last patient I saw. And you always hear these stories about PAs that it's always that last patient and you're extremely tired by the end of the day. And so I had this little girl that came in. We had already seen her on Monday, so I had already seen her on Monday. She came in on Monday because she was having flu-like symptoms, and this was in March. So she was having these flu-like symptoms. Her siblings, she lives with her 3 other siblings and her parents. Her siblings were seen by my doctor the previous week, and I remember them because I saw them also. And her siblings were diagnosed with flu virus, so flu A. And now the oldest sibling, which was a patient I have now on Monday, she was also coming in with the same symptoms. So in my head I thought, you know what, it's probably going to be the flu also. And so they ran a flu on her on Monday, and it came back positive for flu, so she also had flu A. And so what we did is that I prescribed her some acetaminophen to reduce her fever, etc. And she was discharged, and we told her to come back to the clinic. We told the mom to come back to the clinic if the patient's fever was not getting better or whether the patient was worsening. And so the patient comes back on Wednesday, which is literally a few days later, and the mom is complaining of how she's giving her the medications we prescribed her and the fever is just not going down at all. So I'm doing the physical examination. I'm looking into her ears, back in her throat, and her eyes. She feels really warm. But aside from that, I didn't find any other abnormalities. I didn't feel any enlarged lymph nodes, or didn't see any pharyngitis or inflamed tonsils in the back. We ran a strep test, it was negative. So everything was fine. So we did another lab test, and I looked at her labs, and her neutrophil count, which is her white blood cell count, was extremely low, like extremely low. And so I circled it. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna tell the doctor about this because this is not okay. She came on Monday and her white blood cells were low, but they weren't as low as today. They're extremely low. And so I had that in the back of my mind. So I told her I was gonna come back with the doctor. So then I went to go see the next patient in the next room, and the next patient in the next room, and then I had completely forgotten about this patient. So that was my fault because I should have given report to the doctor after I saw this patient instead of going to the next room and waiting to give report to the doctor on every single patient. And so what I did is I went to the doctor and I gave a report on patient A, which is the one I was talking about, patient B and C. But I had forgotten to give report about patient A and tell him to look at the labs. I just told them, you know what, the patient's back. She was seen on Monday, and it hasn't even been more than 2 days, and the mom brought her in already because she's complaining of her fever, that her fever can't get her down. It looks like she's worsening, but I saw her in the clinic, I did a physical exam, and she looks perfectly fine. Her pulmonary and cardiac exam were perfectly fine. And so the doctor took my ward, he goes in, he starts doing the physical exam, he's like, you know what, she does feel a little warm, but I think she'll be fine. And so then he's about to discharge her, and then he looks through the labs and he's like, why didn't you tell me about the white blood cell count? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I know I saw it and I was going to tell you and I completely forgot. And so of course he was a little frustrated, which is totally understandable. He's like, this white blood cell count is way too low. If you would have sent her home, this patient may have become septic because their white blood cell counts are extremely low. And this is how the flu sometimes can kill a child or kill an elderly person, because it makes them vulnerable to all these other infections because their white blood cell count is so low they can't fight off these infections. So for example, pneumonia, etc. And so he was very upset. It's very, very understandable. So the white blood cell count was really low. He ended up calling the admitting doctor at the hospital and he ended up admitting the patient. But I was just so tired that day and I had so many things going on in my head. It was one of my last patients because after her I had only 2 more patients to see and the other 2 were just physical exams. So I was just tired, and to be honest with you, I wanted to go home, and that's something that I learned from a lot. A huge mistake I did during this rotation, and I'm not going to do hopefully ever again in the future. And it's really important to always, every single patient that you're seeing them, I mean, no matter how tired you are, to make sure that you are doing the best you can for them. And it's like that oath that you take, do no harm as a provider. And so I definitely learned that. I learned from mistakes. I went home and I'm like, I can't believe I completely forgot about the labs. What would have happened if I would have sent this little girl home? She would have gotten pneumonia, etc. So yes, that was just my experience I wanted to share with you guys. Something I definitely learned in clinic, and I'm happy it happened before I started practicing as a provider, because you learn from your mistakes. And I made so many mistakes during my clinical rotations, but I think this is one of the huge ones I've made, is just forgetting to, I overlooked at the labs and I completely forgot about them. I just had a lot of stuff going on and I was trying to multitask, which is sometimes a no-no. But yeah, that was just my experience. As always, I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you guys have any comments or anything like that for me, make sure to comment below. If any questions, make sure you feel free to email me, and I will get back to you guys as soon as I can. As always, thanks for watching my videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Later, bye.